We will call to order. Hope everybody got their agenda. And is there anybody who needs to make a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? All right, great. Well, we do have a new attendee this evening. Jack West was voted by council to be our SABA alternate on Heritage Stratford last night. And so welcome, Jack. Yep, waving. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, give us a little background.
I'm a former survey manager, party chief. I've retired after 37 years. I see Brian in the corner there. Brian can testify to when I'm lying or not. But so I retired in 2019. I was working for McNeil Surveying and MTE. Now I work for you. I'm on the Rotary Foundation board and here in Perth One Care, and a lifetime member of the Builders Association. Hence, that's why I'm here. So
Excellent.
that's about it. My wife's a nurse. She's doing COVID assessment. She's on the front lines, and I'm just kind of her manservant now when I'm not doing stuff like this.
Well, I'm not going to argue about that. I think that you've obviously been married a long time. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. And Jack will be the alternate if Jacob cannot attend. So I guess you're here just as a this evening. So we'll get started. A call for adoption of the previous minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look at them? Are there any changes? Okay, motion by Danielle, thank you. And seconded by Howard. All right. So we're moving ahead to business arising. And the first two items remain on our agenda, but are deferred. So we will move to item C, which is an update on the Heritage Conservation District standards by Howard.
And I actually don't have anything to update. I mean, last time when we discussed this, I thought we left it that this might be something for which we would hire a consultant at some time when that was decided. And the report that I had, which was listed in the minutes from the last meeting, was that, you know, there is information that could be available on the web, but it would take someone to sort of snuff it out. And before even doing that, I think you'd have to decide, you know, make that sort of decision about which towns were, you know, maybe had existing guidelines that were worth looking at. Otherwise, it would be a long process. So I thought that was where we thought we needed some expertise, outside expertise, and help.
So are you suggesting that we defer this, or what would the action be that you might suggest?
I mean, I guess deferred until we have some other means of moving forward. Danielle, did you want to jump in?
Thank you. Yes. So I did bring this up at council yesterday and asked if staff still had their eyes open for grant opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And they are still looking for grant opportunities for both, for a number of projects, but this one was included. And I did be sure to specify that it was this particular project. So hopefully as grant opportunities start to open up in around April and May, then there might be something coming forward.
Okay.
Excellent. And will staff be reporting back to you, Danielle?
I would suspect they'll probably go through Alyssa, just to let
Okay.
her know that there's a grant opportunity, and then perhaps it would filter through this committee as opposed to me, but I'll just kind of keep it on the forefront of staff's mind.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So perhaps Danielle, the thing that we could do would be to try to draft some kind of I don't want to call it job description, but grant description to describe what it is we want to achieve with whatever money might be available. Does that sound
That
like
that
we've
might
been
be a better
using?
question for Alyssa to answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that would be helpful, Howard, if you are able to pull together a little bit of a summary about what the work is that needs to be done relative to it, because typically the turnaround for the grant proposals is quite tight. So if this
Mhm.
helps us and not scrambling, if there is a grant
Yeah.
that becomes available, it'd be good information to have at our fingertips.
Okay, well, I having volunteered it, I actually sort of would need someone to help me with that. So, does anybody else have some more expertise in this area who could sort of advise on just sort of drafting whatever it is, those couple of sentences? I think it doesn't need to be more than that.
Or I can give you a hand on that.
Yeah, maybe we can
Yeah.
just do it over the phone.
Yeah, probably, or by email or
Okay,
something like that.
all right. So I'll be in touch with you, Pat, then.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Great, that's excellent. Thank you both. All right. The next item is the Bloop Plaque update. We don't have an update, but I will be booking a meeting with our awards committee or subcommittee for moving into sort of late March and early April to talk about our plans for Bloop Plaque and just cover off the new program that we want to launch. So look for that from me in the next week or two. Item E is our 2020 James Anderson Award update, and we do have an update. So we had a couple of applications for the James Anderson Award. One of them did not qualify, but there were two that did. And after meeting, the awards committee have decided we would like to award 2 James Anderson Awards. And the first is for Gerard Brander of Brendus and 77 Brunswick. 77 Brunswick is a 1860s clapboard Georgian cottage. It is right across the street from Revival House, and it's a yellow and white cottage. It's quite a distinctive building. It is a designated property, and it's one of the oldest properties, it's certainly residential properties in Stratford. The property was owned, interestingly enough, by James Anderson in the 1980s, and he did extensive work on it to maintain it and restore it, and he got the designation. And for those who are new to the committee, James Anderson formed this committee, or the precursor to this committee. He also formed the Stratford Perth Archives. He was instrumental in forming the museum. He was a huge heritage advocate and a colorful character who once climbed onto the roof, I think, of the courthouse. So it wouldn't get torn down, and went on a hunger strike and wouldn't move until removed or coaxed down. So this is why we have the James Anderson Award. And it seems that we would like to award it to Gerard Brander of Brandis because he's been living in that house since 2005. He is quite a well-known woodcutter and artist. And the award had been forwarded for the built heritage. But our committee really thought that what we would like to award him for is cultural heritage, because the Cultural Heritage Award for James Anderson is really for someone who is promoting heritage in the community, either through writing about heritage, doing outreach about heritage, or in this particular case, with this artist, opening his studio to the public and being very clear about creating a heritage space, a working heritage space that people can enjoy and learn from, and basically being a steward of this particular building. He's lived there for many years. He's done a lot of doors open. He's had his studio open for about 6 months a year up until the year before last. And he's always maintained the historic importance of the house. The gentleman who put his name forward said that whenever he did maintenance, he had the guideline of what would Jim do? What would Jim approve? So being a steward of such an old house and such an historically relevant house, maintaining it in its original condition, because it really is in an original condition, and also opening it up to the public on a regular basis to show that it's a working studio, a working home within a historical context, is why we've decided to give Gerard Brender of Brandes the Cultural Heritage James Anderson Award. The second award we'd like to give is to the aptly named Andersons of Cambria Street. And so this is a family that purchased 62 Cambria Street several years ago in a very dilapidated condition. And 62 Cambria Street's history is very much almost like a history of Stratford. This is not a grand old house of a wealthy family, but a big old house of a regular Stratford family. It was built in the mid-1880s by a gentleman who worked for the CNR for 53 years. Now, if that's not a Stratford story, I don't know what is. Raised a large family, sold the house on, and when it was purchased in 2019 by the Andersons, it was really in rough condition. And they basically had to renovate every single room, every single bathroom, kitchen, floors, staircase, everything. It was, you know, some people might have thought it was a tear down, except it's in the district, but still. What we liked about this is that this is like many, many homes and houses in this city. It is a family story. It's a CNR story. It's about people who bought the house and they renovated it to the style of the period without making it cute. It's a beautiful renovation. It's kept as much as possible of all of the original flooring, staircases, millwork, all of it, wherever possible. And we just like the fact that they came and bought a house and put a lot of love, sweat, effort, and money into bringing it back up to snuff. And so we would like to award the Andersons, the James Anderson Built Award for residential for 62 Cambria Street. They also added a beautiful wraparound porch, put it back on the house. It's a corner lot and it's quite stunningly lovely without being, like I said, too ritzy. So that's what we would like to do as an awards committee. Did anybody else on the committee would like to add anything? Hello, Robin.
Only comment I'd make is it was a house that was in the kind of condition that like I walk by it pretty regularly with the dog, and it was the kind of house that I thought when it sold, somebody was going to come in with an excavator and just knock it down. And it did the opposite to that.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, they have quite a long list of before and after pictures. So you can get an idea of what they had to go through. So that's what we are proposing for the awards. Hi, Casey.
In the past, when we had numerous nominations, the review committee had a look at it and then narrowed it down, and then we shared the finalists with the entire committee. And then everyone had all the background info and then passed a motion and voted. Do you want to send it to everybody, or have you already sent it to everybody?
I haven't. That's a really good point. I actually forgot. So we can send it out to everybody. You have both of them, correct, Casey?
I'll double check. I think I only have the one, and I'm not sure which one it is. It was dropped off when I wasn't in the office. I think I only have the one.
Okay, I have both of them. Obviously, our committee does, so I will send it out to the entire Heritage Stratford committee. So we'll have to wait for everybody to get it to have the vote.
I think probably, and then everyone
Okay.
has the background.
That's fine. That's fine. This can wait because we will not be doing presentations for this until a little bit further into the spring. And now that we're in yellow zone, and hopefully we're not moving further away from yellow, it's yellow to green. We could then look at organizing something where we could actually do it in person, I hope. So, okay, I will take that action item to send it out to everyone. All right. Are there any further questions? Moving on then to our special project for 2021. Not sure who is
So
that. Pat, is that you?
yeah, I can start that one, and Robin and Roger and Jake should add any thoughts they may have. We don't have anything definite at this point, in part because we weren't really able to get together and talk through a bunch of different ideas. We've exchanged emails, but that's not a good way to come up with a consensus. So that's something we'll get on later this week or next week, but certainly before the next meeting. But in general terms, I think what we're thinking of is some way that we can highlight the work that is done on heritage. There are a lot of projects in my neighborhood where some of the contractors have come in and done excellent work. The permit review committee's seen some of those, or many of those. And there are also, I mean, other examples of not so big contractors who've done great work, including at least one of our members in certain buildings. And the idea is to somehow highlight people doing the right thing rather than the wrong thing. And we've talked a bit, or at least exchanged emails a bit about maybe there's some way we can get some of this done and into the marketplace or into the Beacon Herald. There's probably some cost to that, but it might be something that we could do with a contractor or somebody and share some of the costs of doing it, I guess, for a better way to put it. So those are kind of the ideas we're thinking of. It's on my to-do list to talk to the Beacon Herald and find out what it costs to get a half-page article into the marketplace. And then we have some idea about how feasible it is on even our budget, or whether it's where we want to spend the money. Because I think there are a lot of examples, and between Robin and Jacob and Brian, we can identify many of them, and there will likely be some contractors or workers who are prepared to give us a few comments, as long as we're doing most of the work to get the piece together.
Danielle?
How difficult would it be to put together a list of the contractors, and instead of going to the Beacon Herald, go directly to the people you want to speak to?
Oh, I don't think it would be hard, and we would have to go to the contractors directly. I just wanted to talk to the Beacon Herald so we had some idea of how feasible it is from their perspective and what kind of costs would be involved. We can talk to them about, we can do this, we can do that, and here's what's involved and what it would cost.
Danielle,
Yeah, I just I want to reiterate that I think many people also turn to social media. So maybe just making use of all of the different forms of media to be able to share your article or your piece, whatever you're doing, would be beneficial, because I think you broaden your audience if you do it that way.
Good point. Hopefully somebody on the committee knows how to do that.
All right. Anybody else want to add anything? I mean, you've got a great source from Saba here, 2 reps.
Well, I suppose I could say there'll be a virtual parade of homes, and a City of Stratford, I believe, remembers and that could be your link to social media through our executive officer, Melissa Shank, who some of you may know. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure the budget you would need for that, but somebody could talk to Melissa about that. I suppose I could if you wanted to. Okay.
That would be great.
It'd be great, Jack. Thank you. That's great. All right. Anything further on the special project? Okay. So item G is adding an ACO rep to Heritage Stratford. I did have a meeting with Alan Ty and Carol Huband, who are the president and vice president of the ACO. And they've kind of taken it back to their board of membership to talk about it. They are very interested in working more closely with Heritage Stratford, although they are much more of a advocacy group, if you want to put it that way, than we are. So we work with the city, we work with homeowners, we work to our mandate, whereas ACO does not have any mandate other than their own. And so they can advocate for issues that we wouldn't speak to or would not be free to work on. And that was one of their concerns, whether there was a potential conflict of interest. So they're going to discuss it. There are no clear standards within ACO membership around this. So it's really them coming back to us. I did suggest that they're always free to attend meetings, and we're always free to decide on any joint projects we might want to do. So I've left it with them, and I'm hoping to hear back from them before our next meeting. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. The next item is number 5, which is the designation subcommittee update. I do not have an update for you on the non-designated properties register. Les and I did reach out to the Heritage Resource Center in Waterloo, and I have not yet heard back from the acting director, Michael Drescher. I don't know if you did, Alyssa, but he hasn't gotten back to me. So
I can jump in there, Cambria. So I have heard from Michael.
Oh,
what
okay.
he's looking for from us is a description of the work that we'd like to have done and a bit of a scope of the work, and then they would take that back. So with Casey's help, we did track down some information from the previous work that was done, but it would be helpful to get some input from the committee about the scope of the work this time, and if the deliverable would be the same as last time or slightly different, or what you were envisioning for that project. And then certainly with that information, I can coordinate with Professor Drescher on it.
So I think that what we wanted to do for the scope of work was to complete streets under A and B, because they were not in the original scope. What was done started for some reason at C. So the streets are alphabetized with the buildings on it, and so we're missing all of A and B. That would be right off the bat what I would put on the scope of work, and it would be identical to what we had done before. Pat, since you were involved in the last one as well, any other?
No, I think you've got it. Listen, I don't know whether you have a sort of the source document, what's called the combined inventory list that Danielle did in 2015, I think, a long time ago. And that when we're saying none of the A and B streets were done, it's the A and B streets on that inventory. If you don't have it, let me know and I can send it to you.
Sure, I'll take a look tomorrow, Patrick, with that additional information about kind of approximate time frame and what it might be called. That'll help me narrow down my search. But if I come up empty-handed, I'll be sure to reach out.
Okay.
I think it was about 2015 because the first batch were done in 2017 and the second in 2019, I believe, when the project ended.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay. Any questions from anybody about the non-designated properties register? All right.
Oh, I was gonna say, what is it?
It is a register of buildings, mostly residential, in Stratford that are not listed yet for designation, but are assessed and evaluated and listed for their heritage properties. So we did get somebody from the Heritage Resource Center at U of Waterloo to come out and look at the properties in Stratford and identify when they were built approximately, what kind of style they were in, what are some identifying features that need to be called out. This person spent time obviously taking pictures, doing some research on each building in the archives, and putting together basically a report that had all of this information that has sort of a format that has the picture and that aforementioned information in it. And this non-designated list identifies these properties. They're not intended to go to designation. They're just intended to be identified within the city of Stratford for their value to heritage. Some we might choose to put forward for designation at some point. Some of them are quite striking. Others are less so. So we haven't on this list identified a ranking, if you like, for their heritage attributes, but we have simply identified them. And I can't recall how many they are, but there are quite a few.
Good. Cambria, just one question. The package is prepared. Do the homeowners, are they aware of it? Have they seen the results too? Just because I guess that would help them out in decisions they have to make down the road.
That's a great question. That's exactly a great question. So we took our first group to, I think it was 2017 when we went to council with the first list. That's the date that sticks in my head. And we did have, we approached all of the homeowners, told them what this was, and they could opt out of the list.
Okay.
So we didn't have that many opt out, but they can in fact opt out of being listed in a non-designated building.
Okay, no, that's great. Sorry for asking dumb questions, everybody,
No.
but this is my first meeting here.
There are no dumb questions,
Okay.
trust me. You probably asked something somebody else didn't ask, so no worries. But no, it was a very good question. Yes, because when you use the phrase designated, people can get a little itchy if they think something's being done without their approval. So, excellent question. Anything further? Howard, did you have something?
Not on the designated, not on the non-designated, no.
All right, then you're up next for Avencrest.
Well, I don't have anything more to say. Did anybody, I had comments back from Pat which were very helpful. Did anybody else have any comments on the report that I prepared that might help it just improve it? Anybody?
No, I thought it was excellent.
I read it. I thought it was great.
Okay. Well, if you have any comments, specific comments going forward, you can always just email me directly. And I'm not sure what we want to do at this point. I mean, I don't have a sense whether the committee as a group is in favor of going forward with this, of trying to actually, move forward with designation. I thought that, my doing this work was going to be, I mean, there's no point in going forward without having that work done. So now it's done. What do people feel about that?
Any thoughts from anybody?
I've never seen the report, so I assume this is the old hospital that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have that report sent to you, Jack.
Yeah, Casey sent them all out to everyone a few weeks ago, but Jack wouldn't have been on the committee yet.
No.
I'll forward it to you, Jack.
Okay. So
Okay, thank you.
Brian, did you have something you wanted to? I thought somebody raised their hand.
I raised my hand.
Oh, Roger, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted, would the next step be to share that report with the owners, or how would it proceed? Like, what would the next step be?
Generally, designation is done with the approval of the owners. So I don't know if there has been any movement from the hospital in terms of reissuing the RFI that they had out literally a year ago.
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything. I don't know, Alyssa, if you've heard anything, or Danielle.
Well, when I looked online, I think there's just a mention at the very end of the RFI saying we're no longer, or I can't remember the wording exactly. Pat, do you remember the wording? I mean, it was kind of like this is closed.
Yeah, it was, I think, canceled basically, or that was,
Uh-huh.
it looked like it had been extended a couple of times
Mhm.
because the date was very long. It looked like it had been open for almost a year, and then it was canceled. Had a closing date of, I think, February of this year, and then overlaid was canceled.
Mhm.
Typically, when things go forward for designation, we've done very much as a committee in the last few years, but usually the owner has initiated it. In an on case, the committee has proposed designation without necessarily the owner's consent. The site was one that got proposed before I joined the committee in the White House one time. And I think Danielle will confirm it's generally council's view that they won't designate without the owner's consent. I think even if they were, if I was on council, one question I would ask us is, well, have you talked to the owner? So I think in some fashion, we need to do that if we're thinking of going forward in any way. Let them know that this is what we've done.
Right.
And maybe invite them to come to a meeting and we can talk about what we're doing and why, in the hope that I don't think they'll ever consent to designation in the sense of preservation, but maybe they will. I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, maybe when there's a bunch of evidence in front of them that points out its heritage value, that will lead to some, at least reconsideration of the extent to which heritage becomes part of a future RFI. And it may.
I imagine that at some point the hospital will be reissuing their call. They made it very clear. Interestingly enough, it was just about this time last year that they had been to a Heritage Stratford meeting, and they invited some of us to go on a tour of Avencrest. And I think that's the last time anybody was actually out in public. It was literally potentially a year ago tonight that we went and visited the properties. So they had initiated talks with us and had shared some of their plans with us at that time. So I think what I'd like to do is to reach out to them. If you're open to this, Howard, share that report, and then yes, invite them to one of our meetings.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, and get some feedback from them on, what their next steps are, their potential timeline, and their feelings about designation, or at least retaining some cultural value to what they do, because we do know that they want to redevelop that site in some way. All right. Okay, so I'll work with you, Casey, then to reach out. Okay. Perfect. And thank you very much for the report, Howard. It was great.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay. Any more from anybody? All right, we can move on to the Development Services Report. Did everybody get a copy and have a chance to look at it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's pretty short. Alyssa, did you want to speak to it?
Sure, I don't have a whole lot more to add in terms of development activity. The one piece that I would note, which is noted at the bottom of the report, has to do with inspections for heritage renovation permits. So previously there was no final inspection done on those. It was kind of left to the homeowner to ensure that they had constructed the renovation in accordance with the permit, but we're now implementing a process where there'll be a final inspection to confirm that they have implemented things as they've said they were going to do.
What will happen, Alyssa, if they don't comply, if they've done something completely different?
This is a good question, Cambria. I'm not entirely sure. I suppose that by having the final inspection, it provides that opportunity to have a discussion and to potentially bring in the subcommittee again in terms of what's been done versus what was proposed in the alteration permit.
Yeah. Thanks. Pat, you had a question?
No, not a question. I just wanted to congratulate Alyssa or whoever put that rule in, because one of the frustrations I think for the permit committee in the past has been applications have come in and certain things are proposed, and then when it gets built, those things aren't quite the same as the proposal. And we always put language in it as a condition that construction should be consistent with the plans. If nobody inspects, that condition doesn't really mean anything. So I think that's a great step. So on behalf of the permit committee and for myself, thank you. That's helpful.
I cannot take the credit for this one, but I will certainly pass it along to the building department, which started this initiative. So thank you on behalf of them.
Yes, thank you. So yes, that is that's a huge change. So we only have the two, just so everybody knows, 54 Romeo is the art gallery, and they have a quite ambitious development campaign for which this just the first piece. So we will be seeing more from them. And I have the development documents if anybody is interested. It's actually quite exciting. Danielle?
Thank you. Yeah, the very last sentence of that item states that architect Michael Wilson would be willing to assist the rewording of our current record of designation. Is that something that we need to pursue, and do we need a motion to be able to pursue that?
I don't know if we need a motion to pursue it. Casey, do you know?
I don't know for sure. I mean, it wouldn't hurt if you did it or not, if it's required. It's up to you.
Patrick?
Yeah, just a thought. The heritage attribute description of heritage attributes is part of the designation bylaw. So any change would have to be done by council by amending the bylaw. So I don't know if that affects the process. I don't think we can invite Michael to rewrite them with an expectation that council will necessarily approve them. That's my kind of hesitation.
Daniel, any thoughts on that?
Well, it's a city-owned building.
Yep.
What that is designated already. So I'm not sure what the hesitation would be on council's part, especially if the designation bylaw does need to be updated.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is reaching out to Michael Wilson and seeing what he's specifically referring to. This initial permit covered the removal of some basically some 1960s additions to the building. And there was not a specific change to any of the heritage attributes themselves. It was actually taking something subsequent and removing it and doing just some minor alterations. So I think I'd like to get his thoughts on what he thinks in his plan would necessitate changing some of the designated attributes, because obviously he's considering that. So he thinks that might happen. I think it's further down the road, but I think a reach out would be appropriate this time. Pat?
One other thing that just struck me, the first bit of work that Marg Rao did for us and for the city was a review of the designated list. And if I recall right, she identified a number of designation bylaws that were, that could be better, I guess. Conditions have changed. The first designation bylaws were in the 80s and the rules are different now. So some of them are more complete in their description. And I don't know whether the art gallery
Was one of them? Okay, good point. Okay. Could we get a copy, Casey, of the art gallery's actual designation description? I mean, I know that we have our designated buildings online, but they're pretty short and to the point.
Yeah, like their original one just for them, like not in Mark's report.
Well, I haven't seen that report of Mark's, so maybe have a look at it and see if I'd like to pull the galleries anyway, because if Michael Wilson thinks it's needs updating, we'd need to have the original. But yeah, double checking what she had reported on,
Sure.
I think would be a really good idea. I didn't know that she'd done that a little bit before my time, but that's a really good point, Pat. Thanks.
I see Russ will have all of the designation documents, I think, electronically already.
Okay.
Okay. That's a great place to start. Thank you, Danielle, for reminding me of that. All right. Okay, any more questions or comments regarding the development services report? Okay, moving on to new business. We actually have 3 items. The first one is the 2021 National Trust of Canada. Our membership is up. We need to renew our annual membership, and we'll need a motion to spend $150 to renew the membership for the National Trust of Canada. Does anybody have any comments, thoughts on this? We get to reports and we get to go to a conference. All right. If we need a motion to spend $150 on renewing our annual membership fee. So I'll need a motion. Thank you, Danielle, and a seconder. Thank you, Howard.
Then you have to vote.
All in favor?
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, and the next one is something that was sent out today, and it's the report for, it's the policies for advertising on city property. It's the policy manual. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it. I obviously had a chance to print it out, but I didn't have a chance to read it. And so I was told, Alyssa, you were going to be able to speak to this.
Yeah, sure. Just let me get my notes here. So city staff have developed a draft advertising on city property policy. And as Cambria mentioned, that was circulated through Casey today for your review and comment. The city currently allows advertising on city property in such areas as city transit, so including on the buses, at recreational facilities, on things like the arena boards and digital screens, as well as at special events. Opportunities for advertising on city property have recently been expanded through the installation of digital screens on board city buses and a new opportunity to place advertisements on transit stop benches. As a result of this, council has directed staff to create a policy for advertising on city property to ensure that all advertising and sponsorships comply with applicable legislation, are consistent with the city's corporate values and code of conduct, and that advertisements do not adversely affect public health and safety or municipal assets. So the draft policy has been sent to the Heritage Stratford membership for you to take a review and provide any comments on it. I believe Stephanie is looking for comments back directly to her by March 23rd. And likewise, if you have any questions on the draft policy, please feel free to reach out to Stephanie as well.
Alyssa says, I haven't looked at it yet. I just didn't have time today, but is there any mention in here about our Heritage District standards and signage?
I got about as far with the policy as you did today, Cambria. I have it printed off, but have not looked at it in detail. So I do not know offhand if there's any mention of the district standards at all in the document. I apologize.
Okay, that's okay. I haven't looked at it.
I did look at it. Do I get points for that?
You do. You get a round of applause.
I don't remember if the standards were mentioned, but there was mention of the Heritage District and certain stipulations that they were considering for and that kind of advertising in that area. My only question in that regard was about, there was nothing that discussed duration of advertisement. So there was nothing that said that there could not be a permanent advertisement. And I don't know whether that's an issue for us, but it seemed like if it's advertising on heritage buildings, that we might want to have a condition that stipulates the time that those things could be up.
Okay, good point. Thank you, Howard. Anybody else?
I'm just looking at it here. It does refer to and including but not limited to the rules of Heritage Conservation District standards and existing city bylaws for signs, which is 159-2004. And I also know somewhere in here, there's something that it's not to be attached to any downtown heritage asset, which I assume would be a building. So there's a few things regarding
Mm.
in there.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, that's, I mean, from this committee's point of view, that would be our primary concern is making sure that anything we do that has to do with signage does comply. Also, as you say, Howard, is if there's a duration, you know, is there an issue with permanency that we might want to look at? So thank you, Jack. I would just suggest to everybody, if you have time, please take a look at this and send comments back to myself and Casey, and we can put them together and make sure that Stephanie gets them in aggregate. Casey, does that work? Or should it go back to Stephanie?
Yeah, I think you can just correspond directly with Stephanie.
Okay.
Her email's on there, and she,
All right.
yeah, she'd be happy to hear directly from everybody.
Okay. So there you go. And it was March 23rd, which isn't that far off. So if we could prioritize this, it would be great. Thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. And finally, Danielle.
Thank you. So I had a question about doors open. I'm just going to share my screen here for a moment. Do I have the ability to do that? Oh, no, it's been disabled. Casey, are you able to allow me to share?
Yeah, I'll hold on and I'll try.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Doors Open is an event that happens province-wide. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Every year. And for the last couple of years, it's not showing. This one.
I'm seeing it.
Can you see it now? Okay.
Yes.
So for the last couple of years, certainly last year, it went digital. So Doors Open was generally a weekend where communities would showcase some heritage component within their municipality. Last year, the theme was, I can't recall now, but somehow the Riverview of Stratford was the chosen theme. And I don't recall us talking about it, but perhaps we did. 2021, the interpretive theme is design, which kind of fits within our purview. And so I can't recall who carried on with Doors Open last year, because it has generally been a combined effort between ACO and Heritage Stratford, and I think maybe one other group even. But this year it does fall, it is design, so that is within our purview, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to do something for it.
When you say do something, did you have any ideas, or is there a template of what they're looking for?
Sorry, I'll just go back here, and it says there are some details on this site. And so it is kind of video related, and you do a little, they give you a brief blurb on whatever you choose to showcase. And because it's design, we could choose anything. We could choose something that is new but combines heritage attributes, or we could choose something existing that has been existing for a really long time. We could choose a municipal building versus, a building that has heritage attributes and has an opportunity with it, like the archive building that is currently sitting empty. I think there's a lot of opportunity. It just depends on whether the committee wants to take this on and whether we want to put something forward, because it does begin in May, so it would have to be
Yeah.
fairly quickly put together.
My thoughts on this, I mean, the building that springs to my mind, it's not a heritage building, but it's the new Tom Patterson Theater. I think of things that have happened in this town in the last couple of years. That's a big deal. And it's a big deal for the city, and it's a big deal for the province and the country. So if I was voting, I would put my vote for that, even though doesn't really relate to us.
And that came to my
Okay.
mind first of all as well, was the new
Yeah.
Tom Patterson Theater. It hasn't opened its doors yet. Nobody other than, some contractors and some festival staff have been inside. Outside of that, it's an unknown right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if there's a heritage element, it's the way it fits in with the waterway, with
Yeah.
the water and the views, and the way it fits in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
That's
I think it would be a great draw. I think a lot of people would like to see that building, as you say, Danielle. Nobody's been in. So you're thinking to do sort of a video presentation walkthrough, something narrated or something, just,
So I could reach out to Anita and see if she has anything already that could be
Yeah.
shared and we could use on the site if we choose to do that. Otherwise, there are a couple of people that have drones in the city that are constantly out kind of doing work along the river, and they may be willing to take some sort of footage that they could share with us to be used for this purpose. It's something that we can pursue if again, I'm not seeing a lot of uptake from the committee at the moment. So
well.
oh, thinking.
I know of two videos that were made for the Performing Arts Lodge concert. Dana Manning did a performance inside the theater,
yeah.
and I think somebody else did a dance thing outside the theater. So those exist.
I think it's a good idea. I'm thinking of how we pull heritage in, and from my point of view, it's sort of almost comparing the festival theater with the new Tom Patterson. The festival theater harkens back to the tent, and it is almost a heritage building at this point. And then we have the Tom Patterson Theater, which is sort of the next generation of Stratford. I kind of like that narrative just because it sort of pulls in a story, perhaps. Anita might already, they might be already on it though. I don't, so that's some of my thoughts. But I think it would be great to do something. Any other feedback from the group? Anything that pops into your head?
If we had a video, what happens to it? It gets loaded somewhere, I would assume, but not quite clear.
I don't know.
Sorry, Patrick, you kind of broke up, and I'm not sure what your original question was.
Oh, if we did a video, what would happen to it? Would it get posted or?
Yeah, so Doors Open Ontario has their website, and that's where the digital Doors Open has been hosted. So
Okay.
it would be posted on that website.
Okay.
One thing I don't know is if they have a deadline for submissions. That, I think, would determine stuff. And are we looking to have some kind of motion for spending some money on this or putting a budget in place? Is that what you were thinking, Danielle?
So I'm not aware of what the costs are, and I'm just trying to go back on this site here to see. And again,
Yeah.
I don't know who did it last year. So the theater is actually featured from last year, the festival theater.
Mm.
And it takes you through a number of different photographs, and then there's, as I say, a short little description, some contact information, the architecture, the building type, the dates and hours that it was open as part of Digital Doors Open. So, oh, and a map showing exactly where it is. So, as I say, I don't know who did it last year, and that's why I'm not entirely sure how it works and whether there's a cost to it or anything like that.
Well, there's a form online that is for an expression of interest. That's sort of.
It all seems to be related to 2020 at this point in time still.
I know.
Yeah, and in fact, the Stratford one says that it's open until March 31st, 2021. And then it flips over, I suppose, in May, the beginning of May.
Yeah, but they don't seem to have anything up for anything that seems more. There is an expression of interest form for participating in 2021, and it's just that it's an expression of interest, and we can have a look at it, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it would be worthy of filling out the expression of interest form, and then even if we decide not to move forward with it, we don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we can fill it out, send it in. Doesn't seem to be too onerous what they're asking, and I think that they just get back to us to talk to us. The Ontario Heritage Trust is who reaches out. So, all right. Does anybody have another point of view about us reaching out and doing an expression of interest? Robin?
Not exactly, but if it's useful, I can connect us with someone I know that puts together these sorts of videos, just to figure what sort of cost might be involved in preparing it, and if that's at all feasible.
Okay.
Okay, I can either connect you or start the conversation and then send you a little note.
Maybe get ballpark, go from there. Yeah,
okay.
And see
I'll do
what we might be thinking of doing. We do have some money, so.
Yeah.
As long as it's, not a $100,000 blockbuster, I think we're good.
No.
All right.
And he's local too, so that's good.
Okay.
Okay, I'll check on that.
All right, so we will send in the form expressing some interest and see what comes back. And then, yes, if you can forward that, Robin, that would be great. And we'll go from there. Thank you, Danielle. One day we'll have an actual physical in-person Doors Open. Yes, Pat?
Mhm.
I actually have one other new business item.
Oh, okay.
I read in the Beacon Herald the other day that Destination Stratford is now putting on audio tours, or making audio tours available. They've got Saints and Sinners through the cemetery and something around the lake, and I can't remember what the other one is. Those are all variants of what used to be pamphlet sort of tours. And there's a fourth one called a Heritage Walk.
Mhm.
So well, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I talked to Stratford Tourism Alliance, as they were then. And I think I sort of talked to them at the wrong time when there were other things going on. Essentially about updating their printed brochure. But I wonder if it would be worthwhile talking to them now about converting the Heritage walking tour into an audio file.
Hmm.
It's about probably about a 45-minute to 1 hour walk, I guess, depending on how long you stop and stare at the buildings. And the pamphlet has a short paragraph on them. I don't remember the exact route. I know it goes kind of around the neighborhood. I'm in St. David and Shrewsbury and Church. And I think there's an extended version that goes over to Norman and Douglas. But I wonder if it's worth talking to them, seeing if they're interested. I don't know what they're doing, whether there's a video part that goes with it or it's just pure audio, but it's probably might be worth talking to them.
Well, I remember their booklet, and I didn't read the Beacon today, so I didn't catch up on the audio tours.
Well, what you can see online is a photograph and either text or somebody speaking it. I'm gathering that if you're at the site, it would be more or less the same thing. You'd be in front of the building and then you would hear somebody telling you about it.
That might not be very difficult to convert from the tour that they already have. Because I guess it's a question of whether they're interested in doing that. And we could probably update some of the photographs from the pictures that Marg took not that long ago. And we also have some relatively new photos of some designated properties that Marg also took. So we'd have the option to give them newer photographs that maybe look a bit more like what the home is, as well as the older historical photographs.
So are you volunteering to reach out to them, Pat?
Yeah, I will, because I kind of tried this once before and didn't get anywhere. It struck me as it should have been relatively easy, but maybe it will be this time.
All right, you're on. Okay, no, that's great. Thank you for adding that. All right. Is there anything else? Speak now. All right. Well, if there is nothing else, thank you for joining us, Jack. Hope you enjoyed your first meeting. And I will call for a motion to adjourn. Danielle, seconded by Pat. All right, I don't think we have to do all in favor, but we can. Okay. All in favor. Perfect, we're done. We are adjourned. Our next meeting will be April 13th.